Do you like toying with your enemies with fire, or maybe a little bit of magical darkness? I got the perfect build for you. Hey everybody, Ronin here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are finally going over my flame lock build. There are going to be 3 ways to play it. If you want to be a pure caster kind of build where you rely heavily on magic and cantrips. You want to be more of a melee focused build where you rely more so on doing fire based melee attacks using weapons and some up close and personal spells, or do you kind of want to be a hybrid that uses spells and melee in combination? It's going to be 3 ways to break this build down. Although I go into detail about one more so than the others, I do talk about what you can do for the others as well. Thank you so much guys for subscribing to my channel. We hit over 8K subscribers, so thank you so much for all the support. Suicide Squash, I really appreciate you being a member. If you guys would like to be a member, hit join down below. You'll get early access to majority of my videos. You'll have additional shoutouts like Suicide Squash in my videos, and you'll have additional perks for my live streams. And I try to live stream usually every Friday, 11 AM EST. This build is really simple. You go level 1, 212, and Warlock. And depending on choices along the way, you are either a spellcaster, a melee caster, or like a hybrid in between. These are my starting stats on screen. If you would like slightly more HP instead of AC, simply switch dexterity and constitution instead. I would recommend skill proficiency wise to pick at least one type of NPC interaction because you have high charisma, so I chose intimidation. As a Warlock, you get to choose 3 packs as you level up. At level 3, you have Pact of the Blade, Chain, or Tome. We would like to go Pact of the Blade in most cases. Unless you would prefer to have a little bit of extra summons, go Pact of the Chain. Or if you want to be a pure spellcaster, Pact of the Tome will give you some additional spells you would normally not have. All of these are upgraded at level 5. Pact of the Blade at level 5 gives you extra attack like martial classes. Pact of the Chain makes your summon have an extra attack, and Pact of the Tome normally gives guidance, vicious mockery, and thorn whip, and at level 5 will instead also grant animate dead, haste, and call lightning, which you can all use once per long rest. I recommend Pact of the Blade. Also as a Warlock, you get to choose Eldritch invocations as you level up. I chose everything you see on the left at max level, including Life Drinker, in order to have the option for melee attacks if I wanted. The main 3 to pick out here though that you can get really early on will be Repelling Blast, so your Eldritch Blast knocks enemies back. Agonizing Blast, so Eldritch Blast damage will add additional to your charisma modifier. And Devil Sight, that way I can use Magical Darkness as a defensive tool or offensive tool at the same time. The first 2 feats for this build are real simple. You go ASI to get your charisma to 18 and then 20. Your final feat is going to be up to you. My recommendations, if you would like to have some additional spells or a fire cantrip that scales with your charisma modifier, you could go Magic Initiate Sorcerer. If you are going the weapon kind of like version of this, like the melee version, you would like Great Weapon Master if you're utilizing a 2-handed weapon. And if you would like the dual wield weapons like dual wield staffs or kind of like dual wield versatile weapons in general, you would want dual wielder. Also unique to Warlocks, at level 11 you gain Mystic Arcanum. You can use all the spells you see on screen now once per long rest for free. I would recommend Arcane Gate or Create Undead. Alright, so let's go ahead and review some spells here. That way you can kind of see what I chose and why I thought they were useful. So for my Arcanum that you get pretty much at max level, I believe level 6, I chose Arcane Gate. You can use it literally for free. This is really useful, but keep in mind enemies can also use this when you utilize it. I did take the armor here. Even though it's more of a fire-based build, not everything we do is fire. And having the extra HP and retaliation damage is just nice to have. I chose Hex because this is a great way to debuff your enemy, and after they die you can use it again for free, assuming you maintain your concentration. Having just free necrotic damage for all attack roll spells or weapon attacks is just nice to have. Burning Hands is useful as a hybrid. Going melee or spellcasting, it's nice to have a upfront spell I can use in melee if needed. Also the same reason why I went with Arms of Hadar. It's just a really nice AoE spell, and it's good to stop enemies from having reactions. That way you can use this and then run away without any opportunity attacks made against you. We did take Devil's Sight, so darkness is very powerful here. All around just a really great ability. Scorching Ray, this in combination with Hex just leads to insane burst damage. Really strong, and it's a great way to get stacks of heat. Mirror Image, I thought this was a useful spell to have. Upcasting doesn't have any benefits, so it may seem like a waste of a level 5 Warlock spell slot, but having +3 additional AC may save your life, especially on Honor mode. Hold Person, really strong, I talked about it earlier, but Hold Person at level 5 with a 5th level spell, I should say, and CC 4 people at once. Combine that with a Band of Mystic Scoundrel, and it's just super strong. Of course, with this being a fire-based Warlock, we had to take Fireball. I did want Gaseous Form here, mainly just to make sure I can survive in a pinch. You concentrate and you become resistant to pretty much all damage. A really great way to save yourself. Now, the Fire Shield is nice because I can choose to do fire or cold damage here, and it gives you resistance. This is just retaliation. If you know you're going to be in a big fight and you just want to have passive damage back at the enemies for attacking you, comboing this with the armor is a great way to do that. Ball of Fire, another really fun concentration spell. It's fun to set this up and then knock enemies into the fire with Eldritch Blast. Really fun to use, and I like it. Flame Strike, this is a nice spell because it does fire and radiant damage. What's really useful about this is on save, targets still take half damage. It's just all around really cool, and the only other class to get this, I believe, is Cleric, so it's a nice way to get it without being a Cleric. And if you did take this from invocation choice, Conjure Elemental, in my opinion, is just really nice to have. Now your cantrips, honestly, Eldritch Blast is the only one you really need to worry about. All the others are more so utility based. My class action, Fiendish Resilience, really nice. Once per short rest, I can choose a type of damage and become resistant to it. If you know you're going to be fighting a lot of fire damage, become resistant to fire. If you know you're going to be fighting a lot of like slashing damage, you can choose slashing. It's really powerful. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to talk gear. Let's start off with the helmet first. In my opinion, the Birthright Helm is probably the best for this build. Having up to 22 charisma is extremely powerful. You get this pretty much as soon as you get to Act 3 from Sorcerer Sundries, from the vendor there. What makes this really nice is the fact that when you have 22 charisma, that's +6 for your modifier. Your Eldritch Blast with this build gains additional damage to your charisma modifier, so every hit will do additional +6 damage on top of the 1d10. If you combo that with the Potent Root, which makes your cantrip scale with charisma modifier, this stacks, making it a +12 additional damage on top of the 1d10 for every single Eldritch Blast that you do, 3 maximum per turn. That is really strong. Combine that with the Spellmite gloves, spells that have an attack roll, which Eldritch Blast does have. Take a -5 penalty to the attack roll, but instead deal an additional 1d8 damage. Extremely powerful. This is huge for doing some big time damage. Now let's take a look at some alternatives here. So instead of the Birthright Helm, for more of the melee focused kind of builds, you have the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. Very powerful. Whenever you do a condition, which you do a lot with this build, you gain Arcane Synergy for 2 turns, which gives you additional damage for melee hits equal to your charisma modifier, which with this helm would be +5. Also found in Act 2, you have the Fistbreaker Helm, +1 bonus to spell save DC, and +1 bonus to initiative. Decent helm for a melee hybrid kind of build, kind of like melee or caster. Not bad to have. You also have the Hat of Fire Acuity, not quite as strong as the others since you don't use a lot of your fire spells yet until you build up turns of heat, since you only have 3 spell slots, but still somewhat useful in my opinion. Also, the hat you see on screen now is also really useful because it does give you concentration saving throw advantage, which is really nice because you don't have proficiency in constitution with this build. Now, when it comes to your cloak, pick whatever you want. I went cloak of protection. It's the default cloak since you get it so early in the game. But other good cloaks to have are cloaks of displacement, for example, and cloak of the weave. Alternatives to the potent robe, since you do have to save the tieflings for this. You could use the robe of exquisite focus. This just gives you +1 bonus to spell save DC. And honestly, it doesn't look that bad either. You have the robe of the weave as well in Act 3 that you get. Very powerful, +1 bonus to spell save DC. And whenever the wearer succeeds a saving throw against a spell, you get an HP back. And it gives you extra AC. So you actually have 20 AC with this compared to the 19 with the other robe. You also have the Hell Dusk armor, one of the coolest armors in the game. This is really nice because this will completely mitigate the damage you take from heat, and all around just gives you higher AC. It gives you resistance to fire damage, can't be burned. It's just amazing, but you won't get that until super late. Most people will most likely have the potent robe, exquisite focus, or the robe of the weave. Now, I already talked about the Spellmite gloves. These are really powerful for the extra damage for spells that use attack rolls. Spells like Fireball that have saving throws aren't affected by this. It's for attack rolls only, and it can be toggled on and off. So other things you can utilize here, of course, in Act 3, you have the Helldusk gloves. Very, very powerful. This is absolutely amazing. +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell save DC. Weapon attacks deal additional 1d6 fire damage, and you gain a new cantrip, Raise of Fire. Raise of Fire is very strong, and with the potent robe on, this will do additional 6 damage for every single hit as well, on top of the proficiency bonus that we'll talk about from our weapon. Of course, other gloves to use if you want just free dexterity. Gloves of dexterity are useful. In Act 2, you can actually gain the Thermo Arcanic gloves. Whenever you deal fire damage at all, whether it's from a spell or from a weapon, you gain 2 turns of heat. I like using this in combination early on with the Thermodynamo Axe. That way I can gain heat really quickly. And if you utilize the Breakthrough Cleave and actually give your weapon the buff that I'll showcase later in the video, it's a great way to stack. For your boots, pick whatever you wish. I like the Nightwalkers, extremely useful. That way I can have Misty Step for free. Of course, you do have the Helldusk boots that you get inside Act 3, also very useful. You have the Boots of Stormy Clamor, another solid pair of boots, giving you reverberation, basically a way to debuff the enemy. Also very nice. And the Cinder shoes are okay. You don't have a ton of ways to burn enemies to actually proc this, but it's not overall bad. It can be used if you wish. Of course, there are plenty of other boots, but again, pick whatever you wish. Now for your neck here, my go-to is the Amulet of Misty Step. That way I can have another Misty Step and not have to utilize a spell slot here. Of course, you do have other fantastic necklaces that you can utilize as you level up. So the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation is one that I would really only utilize if I'm using this staff here, since you do get Firebolt for free, or if you did decide to take the trait to get Firebolt from a sorcerer. This is a great way to stack with your chest piece to have that do additional damage. Now, I wish this affected Eldritch Blast. It doesn't, unfortunately. Now, your rings are really going to be decided on your type of playstyle. For a melee focused build, a pair of rings I really like to use are going to be the Strange Conduit ring. Whenever I'm concentrating on a spell, I do additional psychic damage with weapon attacks, which is nice to have, free damage, and the Band of Mystic Scoundrel. After using in a weapon attack, which with Pact of the Blade you have 2, attack and extra attack, I can use an illusion or enchantment as a bonus action. That's really powerful because we have level 5 Warlock spell slots once you get to max level essentially. So you can use Hold Person, and you can see it is always upcasted. So I can hit 4 people for free and CC them with that combination. It is such a great ring, arguably one of the best rings in the game. Other useful rings for spellcasters, the combination of Kalos Glow Ring with the Corsication Ring is also very powerful. Alright, and for weapons specifically here, you have the Hellrider Longbow. This is really nice if you want to have extra initiative and advantage from perception checks. The Darkfire Shortbow that you get from Damon in Act 2 is really strong. It gives you resistance to fire if you didn't have it any other way, and resistance to cold and haste. This is just a really nice bow to have, and if you want extra crit, the dead shot. Now for your main hand and offhand, for those that are going the hybrid build here, in Act 3 you gain access to the Legendary Staff, one of the best weapons in the game, honestly. You have your good old Arcane Battery here, so I can use this instead of using a spell slot for any spell pretty much in the game, which is really cool. I then also have the ability to cast my Fireball and Wall of Fire for free, and I get that from using the unique skill here. I choose the one Flame of Wrath, which is making my weapons look like they're on fire, but this will give me built-in fire resistance. All my fire spells do additional damage equal to my proficiency, which at level 12 is going to do additional +4. And whenever I cast a spell at all, it doesn't have to be a fire spell. This will give me stacks of heat even from Eldritch Blast. I gain heat, which is really nice. So it's a great way to kind of stack up heat with Eldritch Blast and then unload with a really powerful fire spell afterwards. Now, assuming you did bring Will with you in Act 2 at the attack on Moonrise Towers, you can complete his quest to get the Infernal Rapier. The only reason we use this in our offhand is the fact that A, we want to use something in our offhand here because we do get the Dual Wielder feat, and this gives you a really powerful ability to summon a Cambion once per long rest for free. The only other way to get this is to be a high level cleric. So this is really nice because this is literally just a free pet you can utilize on the battlefield that has some decent stuff that it can do. Now if you would like to dual wield staves instead, you have the Staff of Spell Power. Now this is really nice because this just gives you another charge of Arcane Battery on top of having the additional +1 bonus to spell save DC as well. My preference here is the Infernal Rapier. And if you did end up wanting to use a shield, you certainly can. My recommendation is the Shield of Scorching Reprisal. If you use this, you get Blazing Retaliation. This is really nice because it's a way to just do additional damage back at the attackers. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to showcase combat. The first combat you see here is more so the spellcaster / melee hybrid, while I will showcase the full on-go melee Hellfire Great Axe version afterwards. So what I like to do, because your spells here, they come back on short rest. If you know you're going to be going into a battle and you just want to get everything set up, you start out with your armor. Get that set up. Make sure your weapon is a packed weapon just to make sure if I do have to do melee, I can do that and it will scale. Definitely want to get your Conjure Elemental here. Pick whichever one you think is useful to you. I'm going with fire since I am a fire-based build. So I have one spell slot left. You can pick whatever you want for that, but I would recommend using Fire Shield. But before that, let's use Fiendish Resilience here. Looking at the enemy, a lot of them have slashing. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize slashing resistance here. That way I will take less damage from that. Now, what you really want to do is go ahead and get your Fire Shield set up. That way you can go in, or the Mirror Image, whatever you want to get set up pre-combat to really buff yourself the best is what you want to utilize. Fire more damage, Mirror Image more survival. Use your short rest, get your spell slots back. And you definitely want to make sure you have your speed potions ready. So I'm going to go ahead and exit turn-based mode and then use my potion of speed. Alright, so now I can start out combat. So I could either start attacking with my minion, or I can start to attack and just do some fun damage. So I'm going to showcase something that I think is just really fun. I'm going to use Wall of Fire from my staff for free here. And I'm going to set it up kind of like in a line right here. All right, so now that it's my turn, I am going to go ahead and get some fun damage here. So you notice how they're like in the fire, but she's not and they're not. So what if instead we try to knock the enemy into the fire? So I'm going to use my cantrip Eldritch Blast here. Target her, target him, and I'll target you as well. So you can see I knocked him into the fire. He got killed. She got knocked back, almost died as well. And he just took damage. So that is really fantastic and just really fun in my opinion. And that's also a great way to kind of get some stacks of heat. I'm already at 4 stacks. So now if I wanted, I could use heat convergence, for example. And I could go ahead and walk up and use something like Burning Hands and hit everyone in a line. And the Burning Hands will do additional damage because of the heat stacks. And I still have a bonus action, so for one of my Warlock spell slots, I could use Hex, but it would get rid of my Wall of Fire. It's going to be up to you on how you want to go about doing that. So they died just trying to get to me. It is now my minion's turn here. So we're going to go ahead and warp right back here. I'm going to have my minion go ahead and attack. You can see they have multi-attack, erupting cinder, or it's just touching the enemy. I'm going to go ahead and erupt right here. So no matter what, if he doesn't move, he's going to take fire damage from burning. If she comes to me, she'll take fire damage as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use hold person on both these targets here. And you can see I got all 3 of them. Fantastic. So now I'm going to go ahead on my other turn here and use my cantrip Eldritch Blast. You can see this is going to do a lot of damage. We'll use it on you. And then 2 on this guy. And because they crit, it does a lot of damage. And now you just have that one guy up there, all alone, ready to die. Alright, and for the melee build, although I could use Hex on someone, which if you're fighting a boss, I would recommend Hex, I'm actually going to open up on these enemies with the Darkness spell. Darkness is extremely powerful, and it's such a great utility here to go ahead and just make sure they're not going to hit me. I'm going to have my fire guy come in, that way he's also in the darkness. And on my turn, I'm just going to simply try to cleave these guys down. Did some decent damage, and then I will go ahead and follow up with just a regular melee attack. And the reason why I have advantage is due to the fact that they are in darkness, they're blinded, and I am immune to being blinded, so it gives me advantage over my enemy because they can't see me. So she's gone, bye bye. And with my bonus action, I'm going to use Great Weapon Master All In on this target here. And now I'll just exit turn-based mode. And because I'm in darkness, they still can't see me. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead, just to have a little fun on these targets here in front of me. We're going to go ahead and use the Hell Flame Cleave after using our Heat Convergence. And we're going to hit these guys really hard. That is a lot of damage. They got blown up. Best part about it is this guy here still has no idea if I exit turn-based. They're just running around like, what happened? That we didn't see a thing. Oh no, I wonder who it could have been. Let me come on over. Hi man, how are you? Surprise, auto crit, you're gone. Come over here, and I'll use my heat convergence anyways, just to do a little bit of extra fire damage. Bye bye. I love it. It's so fun to just use the darkness like this. Feels a little cheap, but it is what it is. Obviously, you're not going to be able to use darkness like that forever. So essentially, you would just play him kind of like a hybrid, but more so melee focused. Like use your, if you have really high stacks of heat, you could use it for like a really powerful spell, for example. That way you can kind of just like bring chaos to people. Or you could use your heat on like Hellflame Cleave and other fun stuff, or just to get your regular attacks stronger. Anyway, guys, I'm Ronin. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.